Good morning. I mean, I understand that it might not be morning for you who is watching right now, but it is morning for me. And it's always a great morning when I wake up early and I edit my video before I go to work. Okay, that's partially a lie. I didn't finish the video, but I'm about to catch a bus and I know that with the time I'll have on the bus, I will completely finish the video by the time I get to work. That always makes me really happy.
Oi. Oi. Tartaruga.
So today is Wednesday, which means it's also Weakness Day. However, I couldn't think of anything I wanted to talk about on Weakness Day. And because of some questions I've been getting lately about what camera I use and some people saying that my images look really cool, so thank you for that. I'm going to talk about my camera and how I edit my vlogs to achieve the look and whatever the final product is. So I'm gonna be talking a lot about my post-production process, as well as a little bit about my camera, which to be honest is an old Canon 60D. It's nothing really that special. So for people who are not interested in the technical details of things, I'm sorry, this is gonna be a boring vlog. You can probably skip or watch some older ones. If you don't like it, you don't need to watch the rest of this. But if you're interested in how I film my vlog and how I edit it to achieve the look that I want and the sound that I want, I'm gonna talk about sound as well, then just keep watching because hopefully this will answer your questions. I use a Canon 60D with a Rode Video Micro, which is one that doesn't require battery, and it's great because I never forget if the battery is charged or not. And the lens I use, EFS 10 to 18mm, which are wide angle and they're perfect for vlogging. They're not very fast because the aperture is a bit small, but it works alright. I have this thing called Magic Lantern, which is a custom firmware and it lets me do some pretty amazing things. One of the big things I do is I can select which microphone I want to be connected to the left and the right, because generally you either have the internal microphone or the external microphone, but here I have the internal microphone on my left channel and the external microphone on the right channel. So if this microphone fails, if the cable is not plugged or anything, at least I have a backup. It's a terrible backup, but it's better than having nothing. Magic Lantern also lets me do other things that the original Canon firmware wouldn't let me do. At the moment I'm not using a lot of them, but sometimes I do use some of the zebras, or one of the big things I use is this histogram right here. This is essential. I love having that histogram there. And also this information here is quite handy, especially considering how my camera doesn't have autofocus. I generally look at this. This is the focal distance, so 55 centimeters. I know, like, just by looking at that, I kind of already know if it's properly focused or not. In a Canon camera, you have this thing called a picture style. Generally, it comes as standard. And standard means sharpness is set to 3, and then everything is set in the middle, which is pretty high. You can't really do much in post if you're using that. I have sharpness 1 lower, and I have contrast and saturation all the way down, which means that I have a lot of freedom in post. I can just increase contrast as much as I want, or I don't need to, and I can just leave the image as saturated or not as I want. On the other hand, if I have it set to 0, it's really hard to go back once the image is already high contrast and high saturation. As you can see, I use Adobe Premiere to edit my videos, but to be honest, most video editors these days, even the free ones that come with Windows and Mac, can edit any vlog. Like, generally all you do is you cut pieces of video, you maybe add some music, replace the sound and stuff like that. I don't do anything fancy. I generally use 2 screens to edit, but for simplicity, because I'm recording this screen, I'm just gonna do in 1 screen. The first thing I do is I drag and drop all my footage into the timeline, unless I have drone footage, in which case I just do it later. Now here I have different types of footage. I have the footage of me talking, I have some footage that I can use for time-lapse, more footage that I can use for like an intro, probably not a time-lapse because if I speed this up it's very shaky, but I can cut short pieces of it. And the iconic walking into my house, I tend to do that a lot because I like to see Emily's reaction when I get home, and that's the footage I just shot of me talking to the camera. So what I do is I'll get the ones that I'm talking to the camera and I'm gonna cut all the things I don't want from it and make it super snappy and short. I don't like wasting people's time. That's step number 1. It doesn't need to be perfect. It can be like a rough cut at first because I'm gonna revisit this later. I really like looking at the waveform when I'm editing because that gives me a good indication on when I start talking and when I stop talking. And then the shots that I left for a time lapse, I generally edit towards the end. I like to have an idea of how long the vlog is before I decide on how long I want the intro or time lapses to be, because I don't want the vlog to be too long or too short. Alright, done. That's the basic cut for the talking parts that I have in this video. So if I were editing the full video, which we know I'm not because I don't have parts of it because I'm filming it right now, I would first edit the talking parts, unless I get sick of it because I talk for 20 minutes and I need to cut into 5 minutes. Sometimes I'm just like, oh, I need to move on to something else. But generally I'll edit the talking parts first, and then I do the time lapses. I'm not gonna do the time lapses now because I need the rest of the video to see what I'm gonna do with them. So I'm gonna move on to the next step, which happens after I pretty much edited the whole video. Before I render, I always do two things, and then there's the optional third thing. The first thing I do is I fix the color of every shot. The second thing I do is I fix the sound of the entire video. And the third thing that is sometimes optional is I add some titles here and there. I mean, I always add the vlog title, but sometimes I need to write more text, and sometimes I need to blur certain things because either I accidentally filmed someone's house number or someone doesn't want to be publicly on the internet. Blurring is really annoying because I don't know how to do tracking. I'm sure it's pretty simple, but I never had time to learn. I'm probably too lazy, so I do the tracking myself. It's the worst. Don't do that. Maybe learn how to do it properly. When I do the color, there are two very important displays. One of them is what it looks like, because I want to see what it looks like to me, to my eyes, but also the scopes. This is essential. I can't do color correction without looking at the scopes. And then might look really fancy, but they actually quite kind of sometimes somewhat simple to understand. Okay, I probably confused you right now. I'll try to explain them as much as I can. So you see here I have 3 scopes. And in all these 3 scopes, every pixel of the image is being plotted of where they belong in the scope. If you did maths at school, or if you were doing maths at school, this is pretty much a graph, and you're plotting points in the graph. Now the points right in the center over here are the points of where the image is less saturated, and as the image has more color, the pixels will go towards the color. Here's the red, here's the yellow, here's green, here's cyan, here's blue, here's magenta. Now because this image has my hat, there's some pixels going towards the red. There's also some going towards the yellow, probably because of the number plate here and this yellow thing here. Also remember that my image is not very saturated, so by default, whatever comes from the camera is not very saturated. The next 2 graphs are pretty similar. They are basically histograms, except that one is red, green, blue separately, and here's all of them together. Remember, each point here is a pixel from the image. Now what a histogram is showing here is basically where every value of red, green, and blue are in the image. So from left to right, it shows here from left to right. 100 means fully white, like the maximum value that pixel can have, and 0 means the darkest it can be. So as you can see, the sky here is all the way to 100 because it's overexposed. And then you have my face right in the middle and me, which is kind of somewhat, you know, perfectly shot, which is what I was aiming for, because I'm trying to film the subject, which is me and not the sky. So sometimes I don't care that it's overexposed, the sky. This gives you a good idea of how exposed your image is and how colorful it is as well, and if the colors are correct. First thing I do is I come to curves. This curves is one of my favorite things. You can achieve the same thing by changing highlights, shadows, whites and blacks, exposure and contrast, but I just go straight to the curve because I find it easy. What this curve is doing is it's mapping the pixels from the source, which is the x-axis, into the destination, which is what you want them to look like. So this is the original image, the pixels are coming from here, and where they should be mapped in the final image. If I lift the curve like this, it's gonna get brighter because now I'm making the pixels being mapped to a higher value that they used to be. Now because my histogram here tells me that I didn't really achieve much of black because it was a bit overexposed even on me, what I generally do, I change the blacks to be a bit darker. Basically what I'm doing right now is I'm increasing contrast and decreasing exposure in this movement that I just did. But then I'm gonna go and just lift the blacks a little bit so I have more detail. Maybe I'm gonna make the super black black. The look I try to achieve in my vlogs is to be bright and exposed. I don't mind being overexposed sometimes. Sometimes I'm gonna blow out the whites because I just like bright. I like oversaturated bright images. This is the type of curve I do sometimes. What people generally do, which is quite popular, is doing an S-curve. So you know, you do this and you do this, and that makes the image more saturated, higher contrast. You know, you make the highlights brighter, the darker a bit darker. But that's not what I'm doing for this one. Now I come to creative, I increase the saturation. I generally look in the YV graph to make sure that it's not like going too much. I increase the vibrance as well, and I sharpen, because remember, my image is not as sharp as the camera generally produces if you don't change the settings, so you need to make sure you do that too. I feel like the white balance is not 100% correct, and that's where I come here to temperature and tint. You can use the white balance selector and choose a white part of the image. Sometimes I start by doing that. I just select something and then I look at it and I'm like, maybe this, I don't know. Sometimes you just have to play with it, you know, and see what your eyes like. This monitor also gives a different image than the original MacBook Pro monitor, which also gives a different image than on my phone. My phone tends to make images a bit darker and more saturated. Yeah, I think I'm happy with this. Once I do that, for one cut, you see here there's 1, 2, 3, 4 cuts of pretty much the same look. I just copy and paste because it will look exactly the same. Sometimes the lighting changes as I'm moving, but I'm doing a daily vlog. I'm not doing a feature film. Like, I don't go too crazy about this. With that being said, in some videos I care a bit more about the look. When I think this vlog is really awesome, I try to make it look really awesome as well. Now you see this image is a bit dark, so I'm gonna lift the top pixels. I hate images with green tint, so I try to avoid that as much as possible. I think that looks alright. Same thing. Copy and paste. The image is quite warm. I like warm. I have no problem with that. Alright, color correction is done. Next step is sound. And sound is something that a lot of people get wrong. If there's one thing that annoys me when I'm watching a video, is if I have to change the volume during the video. If one part of the video is really loud and another part is really soft. First thing I do is I apply a compressor. What the compressor does is basically it compresses the sound. It destroys the dynamic range of the sound, which is generally a bad thing if you want to listen to the sound as perfect as possible. You know, if you're listening to orchestra, you probably want to hear the very low and you want to hear the very high. But if I'm watching YouTube on my phone, on the go, without headphones, I want to be able to hear everything. So dynamic range is useless for that. I don't care about dynamic range when I'm making a video for YouTube. Just need to compress the heck out of this. So I come here and get a compressor effect. Now there's a few compressor effects. I like to use the multi-band compressor because it gives me different compression based on frequency. I still don't know if this is the best I can do. I didn't spend a lot of time trying to test it out, but this has been fine for now, and that's what I do. So I come here to raise vocals, but I change some of the settings here because I want the low frequencies to be high as well. Then I get this and apply to everything except music. I generally assume that the music is already properly mastered. Alright, that's step one of doing the sound. The other step, which is really important, is adjusting the levels to make sure that my entire vlog sounds at a similar level the entire time. As I said, I don't like changing volume as I'm watching someone's video, and I would hate for you to have to change your volume as you're watching my video. Something I really like about Premiere is that here on the right bottom in the editing panel, I can see the level. I almost forgot something. Remember, my left channel is my internal microphone, my right channel is my external microphone. Since my external microphone didn't fail, I'm just gonna come here and change to use only the right channel. The good thing about the leveling here on the right is that I know if it's picking, if it's going over 0 dB, which generally you don't want, because that means it's harsh in the ears. Sometimes it's okay. I try to keep the entire vlog as close to 0 dB as possible because I want it to be loud. Not too distorted, but loud enough that will play well in any device. Now this one seemed okay. Yeah, I was pretty loud and I was outside because people are sleeping right now. It's late. I didn't talk very loud. So you see here, I have to adjust the gain. This is, look at that. It's peaking on minus 18 dB, which is really low. Okay, minus 16, minus 14. So I'll come here and adjust the gain. And I'll set the gain to 13. What does the waveform look like? Nah, 17. Could probably go a bit higher, but then it's gonna get really noisy if I set the gain too high. 20. Yeah, sounds fine. And then if my vlog has music, I make sure that the music is not too loud compared to the voice or not too soft compared to the voice. I generally put the music on a separate track because then I can just come over here in audio and I can just adjust the gain of the entire track. After the color is done, after the audio is done, and after the special effects or titles or whatever else blurring I need to do, that's when I render the video and then upload to YouTube. For you to understand the difference that color correction makes in this video, this part I purposely left uncorrected, and then now it's corrected. You see the difference? Uncorrected, corrected. It doesn't make sense to use the image that comes straight from the camera. Same thing for sound. As you can hear me right now, maybe you can't really hear me right now because I'm soft. It's annoying, isn't it, when you can't understand what I'm saying. But right now, you can hear me clearly. because I fixed the sound as well. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I might make another video to answer further questions. I might just reply to them. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. I would like to give away 5 sets of stickers like this. I made these stickers for a different giveaway. They're very cool stickers. I mean, I think they're cool. I'm biased, I designed them, so of course I think they're cool. 5 sets of them. To the first 5 people to write a comment saying, I want the stickers,